Okay. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Joanne Hall, the owner and founder of South Texas Growers. Originally, they were in Elmendorf, but they moved to Bulverde in 2002, and many of us have been buying plants from her for years. So please give welcome to Joanne Hall.
Okay.
There
we go. I guess I'll stay back here. I just wanted to let you know that I know on when Sarah was talking about different programs, I'm going to be speaking at the water series, conservation series, also at Mammon Library. So this is kind of a dry run for that. Okay, so y'all, but hang in there with me. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be presenting is about bees, butterflies, pollinators, plants, native plants for that. I originally was going to really emphasize the native grasses, and we'll talk more about that when we get to that section. When I was reviewing it, I noticed there was not as many pictures on there as I had hoped, but we can discuss that too. So we get to that point. And please, at any time, please stop me and ask questions, make comments. Let's have an interactive presentation. Okay, so, all right, pollinators. So I'm sure many of you all know this. Carrying pollen from plant to plant, bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, flies, wasps, moths, beetles. Some of these things you don't even really think about, but they are pollinating our plants. Okay. And so, of course, you all know this. Native plants are considered native if they occur naturally. That from an introduction. And form the native wildlife relationship. Thrive in soils and moisture and weather of our region. I wanted to bring up in this because one of the presentations that I have a lot of adaptives in it. Actually, the ornamental grass presentation that I have, and that's why I decided not to actually use it, because there's a lot of adaptives in that, and obviously we're focusing on natives. But there are some adaptives, I think, that do very well in our grasses. And especially if you're wanting to introduce grasses, I think grasses overall, all types of ornamental grasses, are a great addition to landscapes. Underused plant. Of course, they help the environment. Require less watering, which of course we all need that. And have fewer pest problems. Okay. So the 50 to 75% native plants, herbs, and native grasses should be used in your gardening. Choose plants providing multi-seasonal blooms. And I'm sure everybody's well aware of that. But like as we were talking, the grasses that I had brought today, some of them, these actually look pretty good, but some of them just do not. I mean, of plants that we're selling at the nursery just do not look that great right now. They're not in their prime. Of course, native grasses tend to do much better, or they look their best in the fall. They're fall bloomers, and even into early winter. The only grass that I can really think of a native grass that seems to bloom earlier than that is your Mexican feathergrass, the stipa grass, and everybody knows that can just be very, very aggressive. Sometimes if you get that, you can't get rid of it. Planting groups of 3 or 5 for pollinator recognition. Provide plant food for all life stages, the caterpillar and butterfly. And provide protective shelter, bug hotels, trees and shrubs, stacked rock walls, anything. This is really cute. I'm also the chair of the Bulverde Community Garden, and we had a Boy Scout came in and he called it a bee condo. And basically it was just it's a square frame, and then it has sections in it, and then he put all sorts of different things, pieces of wood, pieces of broken clay, pieces of brick, and believe it or not, we haven't had a lot of bees come there, but we've had a lot of birds actually that have made it their home. So always think about that, adding that kind of interest into your garden. Okay, of course, pollinators can eliminate pesticides when you're using. You want to eliminate pesticides when you're putting. Well, did I do something?
I might have bumped the plug on the wall. I've done it before.
It's really back. So
One thing I did want to say while we're fixing that, when Leon was talking about the flame acanthus, if you all want to come to the nursery, the flame acanthus will be 15% off for y'all if y'all want to. We have so many of them. When I was saying that we propagated them, we ended up with so many that I would love to share them. So, yes,
Wait for that. I'm propagating them. Can you just slowly take cutting?
that's how we do it. Yeah, we do cuttings. Basically, you would take, you would cut a piece off. You remove you want to remove as many leaves, and definitely if it's flowers, you want to remove those. Usually when we propagate, we cut leaves. I mean, you have to have some leaves there, but you cut them, and then you remove some of the leaves because that's where the node is. That's where the root will emerge. And what we do is we use a rooting hormone. Yeah, is what we use, and then we always you root them in something very small. A lot of time I talk to customers and they're like, "Oh, I did some cuttings and I stuck it in this big pot." Of course, they're going to rot. So you need to. I mean, some things you can do that with. But on what we're talking about, like perennials, especially, we usually do them in 2-inch plugs.
I just usually put them in water and then they don't do anything. So it's supposed adding really hormone.
Really hormone. We don't do them, and I don't have a lot of experience in rooting them in water. Does anybody have experience with that? No, we root them. I mean, we do use a media that we purchase, which has a lot of peat moss, has a lot of perlite and that kind of thing to help, to root them. But we have great success. We really have had a lot of good success, especially with flame acanthus. So keep that in mind. Yes, please.
So, I guess the Native Plant Society says native plants, they're really grown in this area. You don't really need to fertilize them. How does a nursery person, once the plant is established, you have pots, does fertilizing do anything for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we do fertilize. That's kind of like one of those things. Do we or don't we? That's one of the things that we've been kind of going back and forth about. But a lot of the native plants that we do, I mean, we fertilize them initially, and then after that we leave them on. I suppose what it would depend what kind of fertilizer you're using. If you wanted to fertilize them, we tend to use we do use like an osmotic coat type of a fertilizer.
Slow release.
A slow release.
And it has other ingredients.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we also use something called wild root. And it's actually produced by a local gentleman. He's now in Marble Falls. And he's just somebody we've known for a long time. We've developed this. And it is it basically is a lot of chicken and then some other ingredients in it. And so we do use that as we add that to our media when we're potting.
Okay.
Yeah. So it has a lot of chicken food. The reason I say that because at one time we were fertilizing everything with that, and you put it on and I had one of the employees came to me and she was just covered in flies. So I had And she said, I don't think I would do this. But I didn't realize it. And you know, it was like, that didn't even cross my mind. And so now what we do is we actually put the fertilizer at the bottom of the bucket and then put that. I mean, obviously, if you're using a time release, then we don't have a problem with flies. Okay, so you just kind of go through. What was it that, did I do something to
So they ran out of power. I didn't pick up the laptop and also.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so we were just saying, of course, using when you're using pollinators in your garden, you want to eliminate using pesticides, of course, because they'll kill everything. They'll kill the bad bugs, but also the good bugs too. So, okay. This I thought was kind of interesting, was about the colors that pollinators are attracted to. So the hummingbirds like the red tubular, and so like the Flamicanthus, you see a lot of, at that time of year, you see a lot of hummingbirds on that. Obviously, because it has a tube, they can put their beak in. These prefer blue, purple, yellow, and white. I never knew that, but then butterflies love orange, red, and yellow. So, pollinator water. So this is just saying, to bring pollinators in is to provide obviously a water source for your pollinators. It could be anything, saucer with rocks, that kind of thing. Butterflies, a shallow puddle, or just moist soil. And hummingbirds, shallow bird baths and misters. Okay. All right. So we're going to just talk about this. I'm going to just kind of go through this a lot, just about some of the native trees. Oak trees, one of the nation's most important host to hundreds of insects, are good for butterfly larvae. Okay. And that was a hummingbird nest. I'm sorry. So we're just going to kind of just go through. I know a lot of y'all are very familiar with these items, but please stop me if you have any questions or have any comments about anything. Live oaks, obviously, we've got so many live oaks. One of the things, and I'm going to ask if maybe someone knows about this because I'm not that familiar with it, is about the oak wilt. Just anybody, Leon, do you have any experience with that or no?
Some of the arborists that I'm familiar with, specialize in oak. First off, say that there is no oak tree that's their take on it. The parks, any oak. Parks and Wildlife will say that some of the white oaks are oak resistant, but this arborist who specializes says I've seen it on every oak tree.
Every oak tree.
Just some more or less kind of.
Right.
So that was surprising to me because I thought there were some that were immune to it.
Right, because I had heard red oak. Well, I guess that's the same as white oak. Yeah. That tends not to. Does that mean in your experience?
Well, the red oaks are more susceptible.
They're more susceptible.
Yes.
White oaks. That's a white.
Well, that's a live.
That's a white.
I thought that the live oak was kind of its own category, not red, not white.
Yeah, I think when they talk about, I always assumed, I know that white oak was a red oak. I know it makes no sense, but anyway, we can have that discussion. But okay, bur oak. Now, bur oak is an awesome tree. I know they don't do particularly well here unless you've got some really good soil. If you've got an area that's got some soil, but if you do, then it's a great tree, wonderful tree. Lacy oak. That's a really wonderful tree also, and definitely good for pollinators. This little up here, this little symbols up here to talk about which there's a slide that comes that tells you, it actually should be before this, that tells you what they symbolize, but you can see which pollinators these trees bring in. Lacy oak is a good oak to use if you need something that's going to stay a little bit smaller. Chinkapin, that's another really great oak. You don't really see them too much in this area growing wild. It's going to be more as further west you go. Out Kerrville, I know I've seen a lot of them in that area. And there's the Texas red oak. Glorious tree always seems interesting to me because none of them seem to be the same. When they turn red, they're all the same. They're not all the same red. And I know that some years they're redder than others, obviously because of the rainfall, temperatures, and that kind of thing. And I have noticed that when we've had these really cold winters, that the red oaks don't fare as well as the other live oaks. I mean, the other type of oaks. Monterey oak. Now, this is not native to our area per se. It's native to further south, to Monterrey, Mexico. I know it was included because someone said, well, this was Mexico at one time.
And it's got to be Mexico in the future too. In terms of the climate going.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, it is a tree that does well here. There's no doubt. Except I did notice that in the very cold weather, they did get hit.
It used to be that was like the go-to alternative to the live oak.
Exactly.
And then these past few years when we've had these freezes where we've lost them,
yeah,
it was like shocking. It's like, wow, they've never had that.
Right. And especially if something that's not very established, wasn't very established. Yes, a lot of people lost their Monterey oaks. So at one time we used to sell them like crazy, and now it's just not quite the same. You know, people buy them, but just not the same amounts that we used to sell them. Ma'am, you had
I was just going to add that our neighbor had bought 3 of them from you.
That's right.
Last year, and they're taking off their interest.
Yes, they do grow fast. That is, it's probably one of the faster growing oak trees for sure. Well, that's good to know that they've done that. Yeah, it's probably right.
Great source.
Yeah. Oh well, but I think it's probably more. We've had really good rain, all those kinds of factors. You know, I don't know how well they would do if we were in some of these droughts that we have had over the past years. But that's great to know. Once they get established, then they'll do fine through a drought. Okay, here's the pollinator key, which it should have come from. But anyway, that's just to kind of show you what those mean. Okay. This is as to what these particular plants, what they need. This is what the key means. All right, so here are some other native trees. The Anacacha orchid. That's one of my favorite trees. I don't know if anybody's had much experience with that, but once it gets going, it is a wonderful tree for a small kind of ornamental tree. Yes, ma'am.
They're very easy to propagate.
I'm sorry, say that again.
They're very easy to propagate.
They are very easy to propagate. Yes. Seeds will come up, no problem. You can do cuttings. We haven't done many cuttings on the Anacacha orchid because we mainly just use seed on that.
They seem to bloom.
They do. They really do. Yeah.
Early spring to even they're blooming now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And obviously it's a good pollinator. Okay, cedar elm. Obviously we have those growing everywhere, growing wild here. Those are also very easy to propagate. They'll just kind of come up everywhere. But again, a beautiful, majestic tree and perfect for this area.
So the name confuses me. It's not really an elm.
It isn't really an elm. No.
It's not a cedar either.
And it's not a cedar. The name of almost, yes.
So it has pretty small color, yeah.
Yes, they do have beautiful. I mean, that's a fall.
Trust me on that.
Yeah.
How long does it take for the tree to grow? Fast growing or?
This I would say is moderate, definitely. Slow to moderate. I know we have been at our nursery for over 22 years, and there's one that was it hasn't really grown much I mean, the girth has grown, but the height has not. And I would anticipate that tree is probably 100 years old, if not. So it's.
I've got one that's sitting on some bedrock, and it reached a maximum. It really struggled, so I think it may like deeper soil.
Right.
To do
Like some
well.
deeper soil to do well.
We also ran into some down there at Palmetto State Park. And those are really large and tall.
Really, really large.
Because it's got the soil.
It's got soil down in that area. Yeah.
They respond very well to adding extra water.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think in
If you had
nature,
like a lawn that you were watering, it's go crazy.
Yeah.
I think in nature you find it more often in riparian areas than
That's
in
true.
upland.
Yeah. I do know
So
though.
more soil, more water.
Yeah, but I have seen them kind of growing. There's a hill, like when you look out from our nurseries, there's a hill on the other side there, and when they turn, I mean that whole hill is up. So I think, yeah, but it's true. You do tend to see them more in that environment. Desert Club, of course, it's beautiful. There's some different varieties of them. This one is what we call Bubba. I mean, it's this particular color. There's Chautauqua and Chalopsis. I think that when you go down to like West Texas into the Big Bend area, you see them growing, but they're going to be more than Chalopsis. They're going to be they're very light pink and very, very spindly. But again, and this is a tree that's easy to propagate from seed as well. Mexican plum. I don't have an awful lot of experience with Mexican plum. I don't know. Does anybody here have Mexican plum?
I have one in church container that I've had for
A long
at least 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
And it's healthy and it's doing well.
this year I've noticed I don't know what it is, but some sap on the trunk.
The trunk. Yeah.
A lot of it. And I thought, what's going on here?
Have you noticed that it kind of has almost like I don't know if you can kind of see it here. It's almost like a canker.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed. I've been out to asked to come out and look at some trees, and I remember going out to see a Mexican plum, and it just had this canker on it, and it was oozing sap.
Yeah, we have about 5 of them that are about 18 years old.
Oh, okay.
And from
Wow.
some years, they have that sap growing out. As they get older, it's more like a flaky bark, kind of. But they're like tough.
They're beautiful trees.
And as far as eating the fruit, it's almost when they're ready to drop is when they're finally sweet.
Oh,
When
really?
they turn black.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, but they are beautiful trees.
Pollinators. Wow.
Yes, and it's definitely a great pollinator.
And you'll see that color for about 2 weeks, just as white as those
white.
photos.
Yeah. Is that spring?
Spring.
Mexican buckeye. Now that's a really great, small kind of ornamental tree that's underused. That we sell. We try to push them. Of course, people want them when they're blooming. That's when people notice them and that. But I mean, it's great. So we're really trying to push Mexican buckeye.
They end up blooming maybe about a week or 2 after the red bud.
Right, exactly.
Joanne, what do they call it, a red bud? By the way, it's not watching them a red.
I have no.
I'm just kidding.
I know that put me on the spot there. I don't know.
And those are very
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they have those black, very black seeds, which are really, really pretty seeds. But yes, those are easy to get too. Pecan, of course, that's the Texas state tree, so we have to mention that. I don't know. You don't really see a lot of pecans in this area. I mean, I know that they need more soil. You had mentioned we had our nursery down in the south side in Elmendorf, but we used to have a lot of pecans out there. So not that far away. We could grow pecans down there.
It's down on the trail right close to here on Guam State, so maybe
They need more, yes, exactly, because they're going to need some more soil and then also some more water, of course. Okay. Mexican redbud. We talked about redbud, which is, in that picture, it looks very red.
Yeah, it's a doctor.
It's a real thing there. But the Mexican redbud, I think, is real. I mean, versus the Texas redbud. I mean, there's a lot of white who, but the Mexican redbud, I think, is just more sprawling, is shorter. Than
Leaves are smaller.
the leaves are smaller. Exactly. Yeah. And of course, the redwoods are going to start looking pretty awful here soon. The foliage, because of course, well, maybe not this year if we get more rain. So let me rephrase that. If we get plenty of rain, they'll look fine. But I know for the lots of years, they have not looked good as we get into the later summer. Again,
Defoliating is their defense against the heat, I guess.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's what you see with lots of things that just look worse and worse. But that's their way of surviving. Of course, everybody knows the Texas Mountain. So, it's beautiful. I mean, that's a total go-to tree in our area. Slow growing. I heard somebody say that, but. Okay, so we're going to move on to some shrubs. Agarita. This I love. I love this tree. Yes, sir.
Oh, you look at the trees. I'm wondering about the golden ball lead tree. You didn't have it.
No, it was not in there. Yes.
Is that a reason?
No, this did not necessarily. I'm sorry, sir.
I'm saying we have very good.
Have you had good luck with them? Yes.
That's very good. And they're beautiful.
They are beautiful. I have never actually had any luck with them. Are you growing them in this general area?
And what?
In this area out here?
Oh, yeah. And just in the Felicia or whatever you call it.
Oh.
They're real.
Yeah. Well, that would be, well, and that I need to look into that. So that we would have.
And not only that, they're talking about reproduction. I mean, now, just for that, 10 or 15 years, I bet there's a half dozen of them in here.
In the area. That's interesting.
Come from the one different.
Yeah. I know that where I've seen them grow before was down in Big Bend. I spent a lot of time in Big Bend, and I've seen them growing down there. So that's why I'm not that familiar with them, quite honestly. Does anybody else have any experience with that in this area?
I've done well with them. I put in 2 itty bitty ones last summer, and they made it through that horrible summer.
Oh.
And one of them is now about that big. So they're happy as can be in my yucky soil.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to know. I know there's some other things that are here, like Eve's necklace is not here. Makes me okay. Probably need to add some things into this. And are there any other trees that anybody else can think of? Yes, ma'am. The sumacs.
Yeah.
I also have had good luck with my 2 soapberries.
Soapberry. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so agarita. Everybody's familiar with agarita. It may not be everybody's favorite. I know it is a great pollinator. The blooms, of course, it smells like chocolate. When they're in bloom, the bees are just,
I know this.
Okay. Texas sage, of course. Everyone is familiar with that one. There's many different varieties. Obviously, the true Texas sage there's a lot more hybrids probably available at nurseries than the true native. I think it's Lynn's. Is it Lynn's Legacy? That tends to be, I would say, that's more the native variety. But again, when it blooms, it brings in so many pollinators.
And apparently you can eat all parts of that thing. You can make tea out of it.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Didn't know that either.
I'll have to try that. Esperanza, of course. Of course, that like this variety, this that's shown here is the tropical And the native variety, I mean, is more like, well, it's more like this. It's very much, has much slender leaf. It's not as pretty, but it is, it doesn't bloom as much. I suppose that's why I say that. Because I know I've had a whole group of them and we couldn't sell them because they just weren't as pretty as the other ones. But, but it again, and you see them growing wild again in Big Bend. They're just everywhere out there. But again, great pollinator. Evergreen sumac. I know we had mentioned that. I've never really grown evergreen sumac. Ma'am, you had said about your sumac.
Yeah, it's flame sumac.
It's flame. It's flame leaf. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Deer love this plant.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
It is a wonderful plant. Yes.
This is not the poisonous variety.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
This is not the poisonous variety. I lived in Maryland before. We had sumac and they were poisonous.
Very poisonous. Yes. I don't know if our variety is. I know that about sumac in that it is extremely poisonous. Leon, do you know?
I don't know, but I think I've tasted the berries before.
And you're still
So the plant that grows in Maryland, I never ate it, but I obviously got it on my skin, and it's just a horrible, horrible rash.
Yeah, that's what our
poison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are different species
These are
than
different.
poison sumac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like
Yes, sir.
And you need a male and female to produce fruit.
Okay. Yes. Good to know. Good to know. Ma'am?
And if you don't tend to them, they get really crawly and
Right.
it looks like a tree because the bottom part starts dying and then you cut it up, cut off the bottom and then you end up, we have in our church tended to 20 years of their, now that I've tended to them, they look more like a tree. But they do produce their own, I probably bought home 50 of them.
Oh, so they do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about
Probably,
25 alive.
right. Yeah. I know that it's hard to find, like in the nursery environment, this is something we don't sell it because I can never find it anywhere. I mean, I guess we just need to start growing it ourselves.
My experience has been that I'm seeing more around our arboretum because the birds are planting,
Exactly.
I never remember where I bought one.
Uh-huh.
It's a great evergreen shrub.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's 10 feet tall.
Hearing that, okay.
Yeah, it's there, left there, and again, it depends on the environment. How much soil, how much water, all those kinds of factors.
The ones that we have are on the side of a hill, it's terrace, and it was filled with big brick space. There's no soil there at all.
Wow. So maybe that's key.
Yeah.
The worse the soil, the better they do. Yeah. Get some road base. So Flamicanthus, which of course Leon spoke about, great plant. And I will say that the one that we have that was planted, in the ground a long time, 8 years ago, and it always sort of was there, but never really did anything. And this year is just, I guess it's from the rain at the right time, the right temperatures, all of those factors. It just is fantastic. And like I said, we do sell a Benny's Gold. I mean, it isn't native, but it is a cultivar. So all of those are on sale. So Possum Hall, of course. I would categorize this more as a tree. But again, this is a tree that you don't. I mean, nobody really notices it until it has the berries. It's obviously a wonderful tree in the wintertime for its interest. I'm sorry, sir.
We have a holly that still retained all of its seeds, all red. I mean, it's still just like it was last
Really interesting.
day. Yeah. Now,
It's interesting.
that's really strange. That would mean the birds.
I wonder how the birds didn't find it.
And why they didn't just, all off.
Yeah.
Exactly. Versus a trap.
100%. Was way up here.
I know this year it seemed that it was later on. I mean, ours have all leafed out, but it seemed to be later on that has used this year.
Right there.
Autumn sage. So the autumn sage is a native. The red autumn sage, of course, there's many different cultivars in the different colors. Again, probably as everyone knows, I mean, this is it's an evergreen plant. So, it's always something there in the winter time. I mean, obviously it needs to be trimmed back some, but Texas lantana, that is a wonderful also plant. Definitely brings in quite a few pollinators. The white mist flower. This is a plant that I just became more familiar with. It's a really great plant, this plant. Yes. Really brings in the butterflies. Obviously, you don't see it quite as much as when you see the Greg's mist, the blue mist, how many butterflies come in on that. But again, really, really interesting plant and really beautiful shrub.
I think when it's blooming, the butterflies like that one better than the Greg's mist.
Do they?
Oh, we've done butterfly surveys on the big ones that are out here.
Yeah.
And it takes 3 of us at least to count all the butterflies.
Oh wow! Now is the blooming a little bit? Is it different time?
It's shorter. Yeah.
Right, and it's not quite. Yeah, it's shorter.
It's shorter time.
And is it the same time?
It's typically more fall unless we get really good spring rain.
Spring rain. Yeah. Okay.
Much bigger plant.
Yeah, huge.
And there's lots more shrubs, but we're going to. But going to the red yucca. Many people familiar with that. So tall yucca. Taking out Big Ben right there. That's a wonderful, wonderful plant to use in your landscapes.
It's so striking that it's almost perfectly ground.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
Twist leaf yucca. Little small. Again, one that is underused, but another great one. Yuccas. So there's a lot more yuccas than that. One of them that we have just really started to get we've been bringing them in from Big Bend actually is the rostrata or the big yucca, and we're actually growing them. We brought them in, the large ones, and we're actually going this weekend to bring a load in from down there from a farm in Fort Stockton. But that is such a beautiful plant to add to your landscape. And we do have, they will become available in the fall, smaller ones that we have, 1 gallons, 5 gallons. And that I would definitely say they have done extremely well in the last few years. Now, I suppose if we go into more of a wet cycle, they may not do as well. But they did very, very well in the winter. We had in February of 2021. That was one thing that just didn't miss a beat.
Joanne, is it still common for the nursery trade to sell those by foot versus by the size of the pot?
Yeah, I think what happened when we had that terrible freeze. And then it became like, supply and demand kind of thing. And so the prices just skyrocketed on those things. I think as more people have them available, the prices will come down. But yes, they do. They usually do it by the foot versus, if it's a 15 gallon, because we have the small ones, we are just, they're not even a foot yet. So, they're small, but okay, vines, honeysuckle, obviously, pollinators, crossvine, of course, wonderful in the spring. Passion flower. This is something I've never had any luck growing.
I got two growing beautifully on my back fence.
Yes, that's what I got.
Beautiful, but it looks more like the ones in the right.
Right here.
The lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't been able to get anything to grow that fast. Fence.
But this you've had success.
Honeysuckle, I tried jasmine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what difference that's.
Yeah, I've just never tried any of that. We do have one, a plant that I don't even know where it came from. It's in the nursery, and we're going to plant it just to see how that actually. See, what was the name of the vine that you all were going to have as the plant at the fence? Am I thinking of something else? It was not the Alamo vine. It was the Morning Glory. The Lindheimer Morning Glory?
Maybe so, yes. You were thinking about that one?
Yeah. Have you all had any luck with growing that? Anybody?
No, I had some seeds once and I killed them.
Yeah, because that was something we wanted to try and grow. We haven't had any luck with it.
I did not do that.
They grow up on ours.
Do they? Yeah. Yes, sir.
And we've had a good wonderful stuff. Good luck with is the leather flower, the burnt and red.
Yeah.
Just really, yes.
It's the wild clematis.
Well, yes. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look.
They're gorgeous.
Yes. And then, yeah. Okay, let's see what we have here. Oh, so there's not that many vines of that. Flowering perennials, or Blackfoot daisy, of course. I had a Blackfoot daisy in a pot by our swimming, and when we had that terrible cold in 21, I thought that was it. It was dead, but it is still alive. It comes back I'm just amazed at it. It's in a pot, whereas how these are, you plant one here, it dies, but it comes up, it reseeds and it comes up everywhere else. But it's an amazing plant. Okay. Callilophus. That's not one that you see that often. I mean, that's,
because deer love it.
They do love it. Yes. Yes. And I believe this isn't what they call Missouri. No, that's the pink one. It's primrose. But this is a good one. Cedar sage. Has anybody had any good luck with cedar sage?
So well this year.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous. You were saying about how growing different natives and the flies and stuff. We have been growing. We grew a group cedar sage this year. We have moved it from this greenhouse to that greenhouse to this greenhouse, trying to figure out where is its best growing environment. I think we found the right spot. Growing it in buckets. So I'm hoping that we'll have a good, because it's one of those ones that needs a lot of babying at least in at a nursery. But I know in the ground, once it gets going, it's just fantastic. Coreopsis, the lance leaf. This is another really good one. I'm sure many people are familiar with that. But there it is with the stipagrass or Mexican feathergrass that goes well together. Damianita, of course. That is a wonderful plant. We have luck growing that one, believe it or not, in the nursery. It should, by all means, it should not do well in a nursery setting because it's too wet, the soil is too good, blah, blah, blah. But for some reason, we seem to, we do lose some, but overall, we're able to grow that one. So again, always include this in your landscape. fall aster. So, yeah, those are really pretty. Those will start blooming, well, before you know it.
Mine bloomed in the spring.
Did it?
Yeah, mine did too this year.
This year they did. That's right. That's right. Frog fruit. It's a great little ground cover.
It's very popular for a lawn replacement
Exactly.
because it'll tolerate mowing if you have to keep an HOA happy.
Yes, exactly. Another one that's good is it's a horse fir. That's another one.
Straggler daisy, yeah.
Yeah, that's the yellow flowers.
One likes the sun more and one likes the shade more, I think.
That's
I
right.
keep hearing about people online who are trying to get something with some combination of those two going instead of their Bermuda grass or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, you're starting to see that. We're starting to see that more people coming in and trying to get rid of sod and that kind of thing. So,
And you get all the little butterflies on that one too. The
And lots of
crescents,
bees.
all the little bitty crescents that love that.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Gara. That is another good one. I've always had difficulty growing that in the ground myself, but I'm not sure if anybody else had that experience.
It's established, man.
It just kind
It's
of
aggressive.
Yeah. I noticed in this picture down here, it looks like that is the woolly stomodia. That's another good one, another ground cover with blue flowers that will do well if you can get it to grow. I mean, get it going, I should say. Greg Smith's flower, of course, we spoke about that. That is when the butterflies come through and we have it there, I mean, there's just butterflies, so many butterflies. Mealy blue sage. So, that was our plants so that is, now this, I've always, there's a mealy blue sage and, which is, mine is what I have seen anyway, that is going to be more of a dwarf, more of a shorter. And then there's obviously the Henry Dulberg which are also a farinacea as well. So they're in the same family, but you see the, mealy blue is more of a dwarf. Okay, well, this I know is a milkweed and good. I was glad that we don't have the tropical up there. I'd be like, oh no. But, really trying to educate people about differences. So we are growing the tuberosa. So far, it's doing okay. We've had difficulty growing it in the past, and I've never had any luck growing the anthers. Has anybody?
Only if it comes up by itself.
By itself, yes.
Bob got a few to sprout this past year.
4 or 5.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I know someone was telling me that a customer said, it was about the same. Are they still progressing?
Those are the plant sale. So.
Oh, I see.
How they
actually did. Oh, they did.
We're seeing the lockup right now.
Yes.
And they disappear in the wintertime. Like, they're dead, they're gone. Come back up in the spring.
They are again. Absolutely. Yes. And I'm just talking about milkweed, the tropical milkweed. And, I've heard different stories of different, things that people have said. And I'm just curious, what is your opinion on that? I mean, other than we don't want to have it, but my understanding is that with the tropical milkweed, and we do sell that, I would say, is that you should not put that out because it confuses the butterflies.
I thought it had to do with the OE chemical that's actually harmful to butterflies.
It's not a chemical, it's a pathogen.
It's a pathogen.
So that it flowers too late. So if you grow tropical, when the monarchs are gone, you should be cutting your flowers off.
Okay.
So cut it back early October.
Long.
Right, and they need to.
And then they're more susceptible to that OE pathogen.
I see.
If they hang around too long.
Yes.
But they also blooms when they're coming back through, and instead of migrating,
Yes, they'll
lay
stop.
eggs, and so they pick
So you-
themselves.
Just have to cut the blooms off.
I see.
It's the wrong time of year.
Good, wrong time, yeah. Well, good. Thank you for educating me on that. Oh, here it is. But anyway, it's there so we can have this discussion. So, purple cone flower ferns. That's one that is just doing fantastic right now. Red rose gets quite large. That's another one. Skeleton leaf goldeneye. This is a plant that we have just started. I really like this one. This one we've been. It's really an awesome little plant to use in your kind of rock garden.
So it gets real big real quick.
They can get big. Yes, yeah, they can.
There's the goldeneye. The skeleton is the small one, and then there's a huge goldeneye. Well, there's a plateau goldeneye, but it looks completely
different.
It's tall.
Yes, it's really
big
tall.
leaves.
That's right.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah.
My skeleton and goldeneye did not even die in the freeze we had last fall.
Oh, yes.
Green.
Yes, yeah. Actually, we have a lot of it planted too, and it didn't get affected this past winter. Texas Bethany. I love that plant. Again, an underused plant. At least in my experience, when you try to educate people about it, they kind of look at me like, looks like a scraggly thing, but it's again, it's a great plant to use. Tropical sage. Again, this is the native. We also sell a hybrid too, but this is the coral nymph. I believe this is that variety. Turk's cap, of course. Everybody's familiar with that. Yarrow. Zexmania, of course, which is like, that looks really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
After the rain, it's really has, it's really. Okay, so now we get to a little bit about native grasses. There's not that many native grasses in this presentation. But of course the native grasses, most plants for various butterflies. The muley grasses that I brought today, obviously are some wonderful grasses to use. I think the grasses are really underused plants in people's landscapes, something that can be used to really bring in the butterflies, but also just the whole the texture, just the whole feel of it. It just brings in a lot, and you can mix it with so many other plants, and it really is just a beautiful addition. Okay, so here's the Littenheimer, big muley. Obviously, this one gets quite large. So, of course, this is one that you see growing native everywhere here. There's a purple fountain in there, but don't look at that. Inland Seos. That's a really great little plant for shade area, that kind of thing. Sidox grama. Again, these types of grasses, I know, like the little blue stem, are just really beautiful grasses. And at different times of the year, I have another presentation where there's one in the winter, but it has its own beauty as well as what it does for pollinators. Little blue stem, there you are. I've always found it funny. It's little blue stem, but it's actually red.
Chartreuse.
Yes, exactly. So that was a very short little bit about the grasses, but also I did want to say about sedges, which are also in the grass family. Berkeley sedge is a really nice little short little grass. Talked about Mexican feathergrass, obviously the Gulf muley grass, the pine muley grass, which is another really good, a really nice native grass to use in short. If you're looking for something that stays short. We think what other types of grasses. Does anybody else have any more different experience with any other clumping native grasses? that I haven't mentioned?
Notice.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
How do you cut those back?
Okay. What, in my experience, what I say to people is with native grasses, do not cut them back. Yeah. I mean, with some of the other grasses, like the miscanthus grasses, all those kinds of grasses, yes, you can just chop them back and they'll come back. But I know this from personal experience, like with Gulf muhly grass, I cut them all back myself, and it took them about a year plus to get over the injury. I know that you see in a lot of the landscapes where people come, the maintenance crews and that, they come through and they just chop them all back.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. Because it does take them a long time to, if they even really recuperate after that. I mean, what we do is, I mean, you can cut off the seed pods and kind of shape it like that, and then just kind of clean it. And in time, it'll green up, and you'll just have to kind of clean it.
Yeah, ours got cut back, and then this year, very good.
Right. It still hasn't, come back. Yeah. Does anybody else have any experience with that? Or,
I would say the same. You said occasionally trim them down a little bit or pull the head out, but so I do backwards. Then I clean out a lot of the brown stuff, and
they seem to come back. Well, is that the Gulf muhly grass?
Yes.
The Gulf muhly. Yeah.
I see when they do die, it seems like they die in the middle, and then around the edges.
Around the edges.
Comes out too.
Yeah.
I've had experience also with the deer muley,
Mm-hmm.
a little shorter one as well.
Right.
So in terms of the Nolinas, the Texas Nolina,
Texas Nolina.
which is evergreen, just stays low and
So that's really,
can't do anything.
Right.
But
Is that
the
the same
stalk
as
on that one stays low
low.
rather than getting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
stays in with
the foliage? Yeah. Is that the same as Sakaguchi grass? The bear grass?
Bear,
Yeah. The Nolina, because that's
They're both
Nolina
Nolina,
texana.
yeah.
Yeah. Right.
grass.
Not really a grass,
It's
but
more of a yucca.
yeah.
It's got a yucca flower
On it, yeah, and has that same kind of stiffness to them. But again, those are really awesome to use in your landscape as well.
See, nursery is also selling. Is it Hamlin grass or something?
Yes, dwarf
Is that
fountain.
native too? Or?
No.
It's not.
It is not. We sell a lot of it, but I mean they also call it little bunny grass. There is a dwarf fountain grass, a penstemon. So and also this ruby crystal grass, which I don't know if that's not a native though, but it does very well, and it's really really pretty right now. Looking. So I mean it's kind of early. As I said earlier, it tends to be more in the fall that they bloom. So just quickly going to go through. Well, was it before we move on from the native grasses? Anything else in particular in the native grasses? One thing I should say actually is because we're definitely becoming more of an advocate of not using sod. I mean, it's obviously in the industry, that's kind of what's always been done, having a lawn. I was reading an article where, when like in the colonies, when people had immigrated here, they came from England, they came from the European countries. And of course, that was what they came with that and wanted that same kind of look. And so it's kind of ingrained in us to have that type of green lawn and that kind of thing. But obviously with our water situation, we need to be gearing away from that. And believe it or not, in the industry, it's slowly changing. It is like, it's like a huge boat that you're trying to slowly.
Now we have options like Thunder Turf. I know the New Braunfels chapter did a presentation on, I believe, Janelle's experience replacing her entire yard with Thunder Turf, and it looked absolutely amazing. Of course, to get it there, I think she had to go full scorched earth and get rid of solarize everything underneath. But
right,
if I'm mistaken, correct me.
Well, that's okay. Mother Nature's going to help us out.
Right. But yeah, it's a mix of three
Right. Is it
low growing
Yeah.
grasses.
Right. That's through like Native American seed.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the buffalo, the curly mesquite, and blue rum.
Yes.
Is those three. It's those three. And that if you can get it to go, it is. Yes, it is. That is the way to go. So, we still are doing some landscaping, and we're just saying to people, I mean, if you want to have some sod, we'll put in, so many square feet, but we're not doing, like in the old days, pallets upon pallets and pallets of sod. I mean, that has to stop. And one of the things that we're really, I'm not to get my soapbox here, but really with builders and that kind of thing, I know you've got all these subdivisions coming in, and it's just the same kind of mentality. You've got to put in, 10 pallets of grass and this and this and this, but you don't. You can do it differently, or if you need to, they can put down buffalo sod. But so.
So the thunder, how do you recommend establishing that as on seed?
It's seed.
Pods, or-
It's going to be seed. Yeah, it's seed. And so you do have the work that goes in there. A lot of that to make that.
It's gonna have real detailed instructions too.
Yeah, it does.
The tough part there is it's a summer grass, season grass, so you have to put it in at the very end of spring while it's wet and let it start. So I've tried one part of my public yard, public way, and it's there, but it's struggling a little bit and gapping. I've done the next part, and I'm hoping to get it through. But it's a grass that's going to come up and it'll expand, so I'm being patient with it.
Yeah. And I wonder, you probably will need to put more down on in that same area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be.
And just that'll be a kind of until it takes, and then, then that'll be that. And then it'll be, won't need to worry about it. And the other thing too, what I have noticed too, it's short, obviously, a short grass, and so there doesn't seem to be the same amount of mowing.
Very little, right?
It's New Braunfels compliant, which means you never have to mow it because it never exceeds the statutory height. But you probably, for HOA purposes, maybe one mowing, but you're still going to probably mow it to like 6 inches rather than putty green.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So how do you let it go to seed so that it's going to eventually spread?
That
Because
is
if you mow it too much, it won't ever go to seed.
correct. That's
Okay.
The thinking behind it.
or you mow after the seed has come out. Okay,
Right. And to distribute it that way. Yeah. Ma'am, you had.
I have a shady yard and I have a lot of cedar sedge in my yard and it's starting to take over because you can let it pile on where darn it. And it's seeded out on it. It's starting a lot. And it's such a nice height. It's
Right.
I got that and worser all over my yard. So I don't know what it's gonna look like next winter, but that cedar sedge does good all around.
Right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I wonder if anybody had any luck with cup trash.
Yeah.
It's the one for the painted bunny.
Whatever.
I haven't, but I know it's the one that attracts the painted buntings, right?
I'm just asking a lot of
I haven't had much then. Yeah.
I mean, survive. Any propagation spread.
I wonder if it applies to the same principle of sleep, creep, and leaf, meaning it takes 3 years to really start looking good.
Just right.
Never mind.
Still sleeping.
Yes.
Sleep around sleep.
All right. We're just going to look at some of the wildflower. Bee balm, of course.
Yeah.
Horse mint. Suckeye Susan. The Leatris. We tried to grow this once. Yeah, I just sell it and just like fight.
My interest is, it's really tall.
Yes.
Okay, so that's okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Someone tell me that must not be native.
I don't know, the native Leatris that you see growing is tall. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've observed. I mean, just growing on the side. Yeah. Okay, move on to sycamores. Indian blanket, beautiful. How was everybody's stand of wildflowers this year? It was good this year, wasn't it?
This year was the first one I ever saw Indian blanket or firewheel on my property, so I was pretty excited.
I know, right. Oh gosh, I didn't see what the time is. I'm sorry. The paintbrush, there it is. I couldn't.
Yes.
Red colors.
I love those.
Yes. These are just beautiful. I have questions, okay. I just saw the time, so it's like good timing.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Presentation, incredible.
Oh, thank you.
The photos were like top notch in your legends and all. Perfect. I wouldn't change a thing other than the legend, like you said.
Yeah, right to the beginning.
It's beautiful. Great presentation.
Thank you. Well, I'll be doing it again at the library. So.
Dick has a question.
Oh, sorry, Dick.
I seem to be seeing a lot less bees and bumblebees this year. Is that?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I've seen quite a few.
Okay. So it's just fire.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of them.
I've seen a lot of bees in the nursery. Yeah. They're just around in general. Yeah.
Good.
Might just be your area. Well, thank you all very much. Keep in mind about the and of course, come and see us. I will tell you too that one of our other plants that is our plant of the month. We do a plant of the month. We also have Esperanza. Is 15% off this month.
Don't forget, South Texas Growers is the oldest participating nursery in our nice Native Plant Partners program. And that even if it's not the plant of the month, Joanne offers 5% off any day of the year to all NIPSOT members.
Yes.
So do always mention that
mention
you're
it.
a member.
Definitely make sure that we get you in the system. So
Also, she's got the history of the NICE program displayed on the walls in her office. I believe she's got every NICE poster of plants that we have ever produced going back to 2008.
I think it's 15.
Oh, Bernie went back further. Yeah.
So
she's got both of us.
We have those. Yes.
And she hasn't mentioned it, but her and her husband Mike are just great landscape designers too.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, Rena. We've been around a long time. I will say that. I wonder how much longer. But
You could tell us what the grass is
and